Hatta Yoichi, 27 years old, 175 centimeters. This seemingly nondescript, student-looking individual is officially Japan's most wanted man, as listed by Japan's National Police Agency as of the current phase of making this video in September 2024. Now, when you hear the phrase, Japan's most wanted man, you'd probably expect a criminal to look like this tough, mean Yakuza-looking type guy such as him or him. And that's partly true when it comes to the typical physical appearance of Japan's most wanted fugitives. The man on the first photo is Kogure Hiroshi, who is on the run for murdering 3 people at their house in Takasaki, Gunma Prefecture on January 14th, 1998. The man on the second photo is Mitate Shinichi, who is indeed a gang leader and is wanted by the Japan National Police Agency for assaulting and unaliving a restaurant manager at a nightclub in Roppongi, a district in Tokyo well known for its bars and nightclubs, on September 12, 2012. These 2 fugitives are 2 of the only 4 of Japan's most wanted men as of current in September 2024, as declared by Japan's National Police Agency in their national list of important wanted persons who have bounties placed on their heads that is at 3 million yen or more. Kogure has a bounty of 3 million yen on him for the information of his whereabouts, which will be paid out by the Japanese National Police Agency. Mitate has a bounty of 6 million yen on him, and his bounty will be paid out by both the Japanese National Police Agency and a private entity. However, these 2 suspects are both not the most wanted man in Japan when it comes to the amount of money placed on their heads. That title belongs to Hatta Yoichi, who has a whopping 8 million yen, by far the highest in all of Japan, bounty for the information of his whereabouts. This means that if you are to come over to Japan, find Hatta and provide the correct information of where he is to the Japanese police, you will be receiving 8 million yen or around 56,000 USD. The number in USD would have sounded a lot more impressive right away, before the Japanese yen did not depreciate to such a radical extent as it has over the recent couple of years. So then, what did Hatta exactly do in order for him to become Japan's most wanted man? In order to find the answer to this question, we have to return a bit back in time to June 29th, 2022. A and his friend B are having the time of their lives. University students in Japan's Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University, located in the city of Beppu, Oita Prefecture. The 2 students decided to ride their motorcycles to Yuhuin, a district in Oita Prefecture, well known for its hot springs and unique-looking gift shops, on one of their off days from the university lectures. And after visiting Yuhuin just after noon, they rode back to Beppu and had a meal at A's house at around 5 p.m. They then got out once again, rode their motorbikes to 2nd Street, a second-hand store located near Beppu Station. It is said that they bought a pair of denims at the second-hand store. Then at around 7:30 p.m., A and B went together to another shopping area in Beppu, where they once again went to look for some second-hand clothes, as well as a camera. So as you can see, just 2 bros having fun on one of their free days, breathing some fresh air at Yuhuin, then going around shopping for second-hand items, most likely in order to save some money, as they were still university students. Then at around 7:42 p.m., A and B finished all of their shopping and got back onto their motorbikes that was parked at the shopping mall bike-designated parking lot. And when A began to head out of the parking lot, he sees a man entering the lot in order to walk towards the shopping mall. The strange thing about this man was that he was walking towards the lot with music on at full blast on his smartphone. We're not sure about other countries, but this type of act is a resounding no in Japan. For our subscribers who have watched our video posted just before this one on the case of Riko Uchida and have heard our explanation on the 2 Japanese concepts of wa and meiwaku, you'll know that individuals in Japan have an extreme antipathy towards people who act in a way that disturbs wa, or the harmonious, peaceful atmosphere of the moment, and cause meiwaku to others. So this man walking towards the shopping mall parking lot was causing all kinds of meiwaku, walking at night with music on his smartphone at full blast, disturbing the people who were around the parking lot, as well as the people who lived in houses nearby. And this meiwaku causing man was no one else but Hatta Yoichi himself. So A began to naturally look towards the direction of Hatta. Then Hatta, in an angry tone, asks A, "What the F are you looking at?" Then A tells Hatta that he was not looking at him. Then Hatta, as if he's trying to pick a fight, tells A, "Do you not know that you're not supposed to walk your bike into this direction?" And at least on this part, Hatta was technically right. In order to head out to the road from the bike parking lot, A was walking his bike in a pavement that was technically only designated for the pedestrians. A, knowing that he made a mistake in that part and not wanting to cause any further trouble, bowed his head down and apologized to Hatta. A's friend B, who was watching this interaction a few meters back from the bike parking lot, said that he thought that A met a senpai or upperclassman from university by the way he was bowing his head down at the man on the opposite side. And after less than a minute of this back and forth between A and Hatta, they parted ways, with Hatta continuing to walk towards the shopping mall. B then went up to A at around 7:43 p.m. and asked him what that was all about, in which A then briefly explained to B on what just happened. A and B then got on their motorbikes and started to ride their way back home. Then at around 7:45 p.m., when A and B were waiting on a traffic light, a car driving at almost 100 kilometers an hour, way above the speed limit of the area, just rear-ended A and B, making them fly ahead for around 30 meters due to the impact of the hit. Although B managed to survive despite serious physical injury, A, the university student whom Hatta had a verbal altercation with just a few minutes ago, immediately lost his consciousness and passed away from cardiac arrest shortly afterwards. As you can already imagine at this point, the person behind the wheel was Hatta Yoichi. After smashing into A and B with his car, Hatta crashed into a utility pole himself. He then left his smartphone, wallet and shoes inside the car, then began running away from the scene barefoot. Now, Hatta initially began to walk and jog towards Beppu Station from the crime scene. So from that, we could have thought, maybe Hatta is trying to take the train from Beppu Station and escape the city. But that was not the case. He went past Beppu Station, then jogged further south towards a harbor that was located around 2 kilometers away from the crime scene. The last moment when Hatta was caught on CCTV was of him jaywalking across a road near the harbor in the Beppu Kitahama area. The police later found Hatta's black overfit shirt on the concrete floor on the Beppu Kitahama yacht harbor. However, when it came to Hatta Yoichi himself, he was nowhere to be found and has been in disappearance ever since. There are so many questions that can be raised regarding the disappearance of Hatta Yoichi. There are a minority in Japan, including Hatta's family members, such as his grandfather, who believed that Hatta unalived himself by drowning at the sea once he arrived at the harbor in Kitama. And in many ways, it does seem as if that is exactly what Hatta wants everyone to believe. I mean, he did conveniently just place his shirt right at the harbor, as if to try to tell everyone, hey, I jumped into the sea right here. However, most in Japan believe that there is absolutely no way that Hatta has unalived himself for several reasons. First is due largely to Hatta's criminal past and the type of statements he made to his friends and acquaintances prior to his disappearance. At the time when Hatta rear-ended the two university students, A and B, he was already a convicted criminal serving a sentence. Just a few months prior to his hit and run, Hatta was given a guilty verdict by the Japanese court for the illegal confinement of a woman whom he met on an app. However, although he was given a prison sentence, Hatta was put on a suspended sentence, which is essentially a period of probation in Japan when a criminal who's convicted guilty does not have to go to prison as long as the criminal does not commit another offense in Japan during that time. But then, if the convicted felon commits another crime during that time out in society, then the criminal is essentially finished. He or she will now definitely spend time in prison, serving an extended, combined length of time in prison. So many believe that Hatta, very much aware of the long length of time that he'll most definitely have to spend in prison now once he gets caught, fled the scene, and is currently in hiding somewhere in Japan. But then some may say, well, maybe he could have still unalived himself because he knew just how long he'll be spending his time in prison once arrested and tried. However, the vast majority in Japan believe that this is highly unlikely. T, a man who was locked in jail and shared the same cell with Hatta, while Hatta waited for a trial for his crime of confining the woman whom he encountered on the app, bravely stepped up to share some information about Hatta. T said that his initial impression of Hatta was that he seemed to be a polite person who didn't really want to say much. However, over time, T says that he began to notice certain traits of Hatta that made T believe that Hatta was a bit of a narcissist. For instance, when there was a small time given in jail to be able to look into the mirror, Hatta spent the entire time fixing his hair. Then when skin products were sometimes provided in jail, Hatta took this opportunity to the fullest and smeared the cream all over his face. P also revealed that Hatta was very much interested in men's makeup and even eventually confessed to T that he has underwent plastic surgery. Furthermore, Hatta seems to have been a pretty fit guy. His jailmate T said that Hatta worked hard to build his body even when detained, essentially doing a Patrick Bateman routine of bodyweight workouts in his cell. By the way, although Hatta is thought to only weigh around 58 kilograms, which is around 127 pounds, he's got a pretty well-built body, specifically built towards endurance. According to the words of a friend from Hatta, he enjoyed outdoor activities such as camping, and once even cycled from the Chiba prefecture all the way to the city of Atami, which is a staggering 10+ hour ride on bike. Hatta's friend specifically said, to quote, "I think Hatta has the stamina to survive anywhere. I think he has an obsession with living, so maybe he's retreating to the mountains, or maybe he's walked to another prefecture and is living somewhere else." So all information reported by his friends or his jailmate suggests the idea that Hatta is essentially an individual who's built literally quite perfectly to live a life hiding in the mountains. A person who loves the outdoors, capable of moving hundreds of kilometers on bike, and the stamina to survive everywhere. And most of all, his intense love for his own self. But then, this is still not the most convincing information, which leads us to believe that there is a very high chance that Hatta is still alive. That evidence is this video of Hatta, filmed by one of his acquaintances sometime prior to his disappearance.
はい、私にとってね、人生のプランなんですけど、そんなものはありませんね。はい、ないですね。どうやってこれから生きていくかって言ったら、生活保護っていうシステムがあるんですよ。となると、万引きとかしたりして食べていけばあとは置き引きとかっていうトイレに行くときに人が荷物を置いてきますよね。それをバレないようにいただくという。するとタダで物が手に入るんですね。スマホとかが手に入る場合もあるんで、やっぱり。
Yeah.Millions of people in Japan watched this video as it went viral on social media, leading everyone to further think that Hatta is indeed still alive and is continuing to survive in the island nation. According to Sasaki Narumi, a former detective for the Saitama Prefectural Police, to quote his words, this video confirms it. Hatta is definitely still alive. If you ever come to Japan, whether it be for a holiday or to live in the country, and spot Hatta Yoichi, you should immediately call the Oita Beppu police station at 0977-21-2131 and report on his sighting. The 8 million yen bounty completely aside, doing our duty to contribute to the finding of this fugitive is the right thing to do for the sake of justice for the victim A's family. Let us briefly hear the words of A's mother, who wanted to describe what kind of person her son was while he was alive, and pay our respects to his life. To quote the words of the victim A's mother, written by herself, "At the time of the incident, my son was a 19-year-old second-year university student and was looking forward to meeting his friends from his hometown with his coming-of-age ceremony just around the corner. He had a dream for the future, which was to become a businessman who will play a vibrant role in the world stage. Up until high school, his dream was to become a soccer player. He was a bright and active child who was always chasing the ball, but having to give up on that dream as a result of an injury in high school, he committed seriously to his studies and worked towards his next goal. He always said connecting with others is important to succeed as a businessman, and cherished his relationships with his friends. He liked to talk about big dreams with his friends. After he became a university student, his range of activities expanded, and he made more and more friends all over Japan and around the world. Not only have we lost our precious son, but are still suffering from twice the pain of the suspect, still not being caught and arrested. Why did my son, who was such a kind individual to his family and friends, have to be unalived over such a brief conversation? What kind of words, what kind of attitude did my son take in order for the suspect to completely lose his temper? No matter how much I think about it, I still cannot understand. Japan must not be a country where an individual such as Hatta, who commits heinous and reckless crimes on a repeated basis, are allowed to continue to live without being arrested. And what A's family is saying is absolutely right. Hatta has to be caught, whether it be tomorrow, or in 10 years, or in 50 years. As long as he's alive, he has to be arrested, be tried in court, and receive the proper criminal punishment that he deserves. However, the sad thing is that the current criminal charge in which Hatta is being chased after is the violation of the Road Traffic Act. Not murder, but violation of the Road Traffic Act. So victim A's family filed an official complaint to the Oita Prefectural Police, asking that Hatta be charged with the criminal offense of murder and not the one that he's charged with right now. The reason why changing Hatta's criminal charge to that of murder from the violation of the Road Traffic Act is so pivotal is that, under the current Japanese legal system, an offense such as hit and run, which violate the Road Traffic Act, only has a statute of limitations of 7 years, whereas the statute of limitations for murder in Japan has been abolished in 2010. This means that Hatta, under the premise that he's still alive, only has to survive a little less than 5 years now in a hideout somewhere in Japan, as how he has already managed to successfully do so for more than 2 years. And technically, as the Japanese court no longer has jurisdiction over this case after the statute of limitations has expired, if Hatta is to appear in around 5 years' time with his signature laugh, he will not be tried in court and be brought to justice. But then the fundamental question has to be asked. Why isn't the charge on Hatta's arrest warrant the one of murder? Why the mere, unbefitting charge of the violation of the Road Traffic Act? This is as according to the Oita Prefectural Police. It is a rather hard task to definitely confirm that Hatta had an intent to kill without being able to first question the suspect. Questioning Hatta is obviously impossible at this point, as he has not yet been arrested. But as stated by the victim A's father, this is undoubtedly a homicide case, given that an automobile was used as a lethal weapon, and we believe all of us agree to A's father's statement. And the critical proof of the fact that Hatta had an intent to kill when he smashed his car into A and B at almost 100 kilometers an hour is the testimony given by Hatta's former jailmate, T. To elaborate, when T was detained together in the same cell with Hatta, when Hatta was arrested for the illegal confinement of a woman whom he met on a smartphone app a year prior to the hit and run incident, there was a third man who was in the same jail cell with Hatta and T, whom T labeled as Man Y. According to the words of T, Man Y was the typical antisocial type individual who was also very much well versed with the life in the, let's just say, the underworld of Japan and how the laws work in Japan. And T says that during their time locked up in the same cell, Hatta and Y once had a conversation about how to handle altercations with people. And during this conversation, T says that Y told Hatta that the quickest method to tackle the situation was to just run over the person you don't like with your car, as then, even when you get arrested, you will not be charged with assault or battery, but rather with a traffic law violation. T says that when Hatta heard this advice from Man Y, he agreed with Man Y with a statement in the lines of, that could be an option. Then 1 year later, after this conversation, Hatta went on to commit the hit and run in Beppu against the victims A and B. Former police officer Akiyama Hiroyasu from the Tokushima Prefectural Police explained that this conversation that was held in jail, as testified by T, was a major statement of evidence that could potentially contribute towards proving the motive and intent of the suspect Hatta's crime. Former officer Akiyama further urged that the Oita Prefectural Police should move towards changing the arrest warrant of Hatta Yoichi to a murder charge by the end of 2024. However, whether the Oita Prefectural Police will indeed change the charge against Hatta Yoichi remains uncertain, as after all, regardless of how much evidence they can attempt to gather, it could indeed be difficult to identify the suspect's intent without being able to first question the suspect. And with the Oita Beppu police station and the Oita Prefectural Police receiving large public criticism across Japan for how they handled the Hatta Yoichi case immediately after the crime has occurred.
警察の初動ミスを認めたっていうことに受け取るんですけど、その辺はいかがでしょうか。初動捜査のミスですね。
その点はちょっとコメントを控えさせていただきます。
どうして控えるんですか。
私が答えるちょっと立場にないということで。
Perhaps one of the last things they would want is for Hatta's charge to change to that of murder for a number of reasons. First, the degree of a police force's perceived level of incompetence changes drastically from when they are not able to catch a hit-and-run suspect to that of not being able to catch a murderer. The latter obviously induces much more shame and stigma than the former. And secondly, if the charge against Hatta is changed to that of murder, this means that the statute of limitations for the arrest of Hatta Yoichi will never expire, leading the poster of Hatta Yoichi in the Japan National Police Agency's most wanted list to never disappear, possibly for for decades to come if he is not to get caught in the upcoming years. And within the poster will always remain the words, Oita Beppu Police Station, the police department that failed to catch the fugitive Hatta for several decades. So again, this is not definite by any means, but if you just think from the perspective of the Oita Prefectural Police, they just might want a criminal charge against Hatta Yoichi to quietly stay as in the one of the violation of the Road Traffic Act as how it is right now, without causing too much of a scene nationally. Have the statute of limitations too. Again, the important word here is quiet. To quietly expire after the 7-year span as designated by law, then have Hatta's name and poster disappear from the nation's most wanted list. And do you know who can help contribute towards changing the charges against Hatta Yoichi from a Road Traffic Act violation to that of murder? Us. We can tangibly make a difference. As we've just mentioned, the quieter this case goes and gets forgotten from public memory, the more likely the Oita Prefectural Police will not change the charge against Hatta to that of murder. Victim A's family, well knowing this, have started a petition to the Chief of Police of the Oita Prefectural Police Headquarters, Oida Hideaki, that the charges on the arrest warrant for the suspect Hatta Yoichi to change to that of murder from the current hit-and-run charge. The victim's family do not want any money at all. They just want more people to sign the petition, prevent the case from being quietly forgotten, and be swept under the rug as a mere traffic law violation case, and have her deceased son receive the justice that he deserves. And justice has to be served, whether it be in 10 years, 20 years, or even in 30 years from now, and not just within the little less than 5 years of time remaining in the statute of limitations against Hatta for his current charge of the Road Traffic Act violation. So let us make a difference. Victim A did not deserve to die. He was just a 19-year-old university student. Still just 19. We've all been at that age. That beautiful time when we are full of ambition. That innocent time when we truly believe that the world is our oyster and are excited for the future that is ahead of us. Although he could not achieve his childhood dream of becoming a soccer player as he had to succumb to an injury during high school, he still had a childhood goal left that he was on the progression towards achieving. And that was to visit all of the 47 prefectures of Japan with his best childhood friend. Victim A's mother said that A and his best friend managed to already visit around 20 prefectures by the time A had his life taken away from him. A's mother said that A's best childhood friend recently finished visiting all of the 47 prefectures of Japan, achieved the goal that he and A set together, and brought souvenirs from each of the prefectures to A's family. If only was A not unlucky enough to encounter Hatta, an already convicted criminal who was supposed to be serving time at that very moment when they met at 7:42 p.m. on a Wednesday on June 29th, 2022. A would have accomplished the goal of visiting all of the 47 prefectures of Japan with his best friend by now and bring back souvenirs from each of the prefectures to his mother with a smile on his face with his own 2 hands rather than the ones of his best childhood friend. We are not at all sponsored by any sort by the victim's family to support this petition page. But what we believe we do have to do is to sign this petition page so that the victim A's family can reach their goal number of 150,000 signatures and have the authorities in the Oita Prefectural Police know that it is not just the people in Japan who are watching now, but people around the entire world. So please share this petition page with your friends and family and viscerally hope that the suspect Hatta Yoichi gets found and is arrested as soon as possible. And as always, this has been Al
and Helen.
And thank you for watching today's episode of Age Analysis.